hear me?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And oh, it's okay. We are live now. I got to switch back to you guys. Doing the whole shebang-a-bang. Full screen mode. We are live. Hello and welcome to Fermenting Opinions. I'm your host, David Poseidon.
Co-host, James McVeigh.
There he is. And we are Fermenting Opinions, the podcast in search of a more palatable political ferment. Tonight is round 2 of talking about the NFL, Kaepernick taking a knee, protests, Trump's reaction to it. We're probably going to get into all those things. But yeah, anybody want to jump in on that? Yeah, I guess we can sort of rehash the timeline a little bit. This started with last season, Colin Kaepernick. He sat during the national anthem. Somebody talked to him about it, so he decided to take a knee. That it was a little bit more, I don't know, not necessarily more or less respectful, but like a little bit more symbolic of an action. Right? Say again?
Nate Boyer who talked to him. Nate Boyer, what happened with Nate Boyer, when he took it, the first Kaepernick was just sitting. Okay? First 3 games, I think, of the preseason, nobody really said anything. Then somebody noticed like the 3rd or 4th game of the preseason, and they asked him about it. That's when everything blew up. Nate Boyer was asked by the Army Times to write a piece on it. Nate Boyer went to a training camp with the Seahawks, I think, and he was an Army Green Beret, I believe. So Boyer wrote an opinion piece in the Army Times. Kaepernick read the opinion piece, got his people to get in contact with Nick Boyer because he said at the time, and this is what people are missing, he said at the time that he had no intention of offending veterans or anybody else, or anybody associated with the military, or disrespecting the flag. So they got together, and Nick Boyer told him that, you know, when a soldier dies out of a show of respect, they take a knee. And that's where the whole take a knee came from, because he was...
Hey, you've cut on us.
Yeah. For some reason, this thing isn't acting right. He keeps cutting out on me.
Okay.
But anyway, that's... I don't know what's going on.
I think you're being censored.
That's where the whole take a knee thing...
It did it again.
Yeah,
that's where the whole take a knee thing came from, though.
Gotcha.
Nate Boyer suggested him to take a knee out of a show of respect. So people are not really picking up on that. That's where, you know, him taking a knee came from. Because at first he was just sitting.
Yeah.
I didn't know that detail.
That was, I think I saw something about that. That was pretty enlightening. Because when he started, he was sitting down. He was sitting on the bleachers, or this bench.
Oh. Is anybody else getting a massive... Man, is anyone else getting a massive amount of garble?
Yes.
Yeah. This is horrible. I don't know if there's anything can be done about that or not.
Yeah, I'm getting a little echo.
Yeah, it's pretty echo.
Woof. All right.
Just Louisiana thing. Like, not the facility.
Like they don't...
Nope.
Everything was great till we went live.
So I don't know if it's me, but I don't hear anything unique.
You definitely went with my voice on me there.
Yeah, you sound like Max Headroom.
Yeah, that's exactly what it sounds like.
Now you sounded okay there. I'm horrible.
I'm gonna try to turn off and on. We'll see if it's better.
Does can we get more? Oh, hello.
Oh, there we go.
It was him.
That's a lot better.
Yeah, definitely him. Okay.
He was screwing the whole thing up. Doug, you're out.
Well, I mean,
anyway, sorry about that. Go ahead.
There was an interesting fallout, I guess, so far that I'd have to add to it. Aside from, we've beaten this horse to death quite a bit. Was I changed my fantasy football team name to Trump's Sons of Bitches.
That's amazing. I like that.
But
So I think sort of, yeah, I guess one of the major issues is that, and everything, Doug, it's all your fault, man, by the way. We're okay right now, but as soon as you dropped out, everything cleared up.
Okay, if it comes back, just let me know.
Okay. Cool.
well,
Yeah, it's fine right now.
I thought Clarence brought up a good point there, kind of, though, or at least it seemed like we were going there a little bit, was that, does anyone really know what's being protested against, or they just don't like the protest in general?
They don't like the protest in general. That's the feel I'm getting. They don't like the original cause of the protest. So what they're doing is making it about the flag.
Yeah, I mean, I tried reasoning somebody through it, like who was a Titans fan who decided he was going to just abandon the team and take down his jerseys and all this stuff. He's got signed and hanged and all this stuff, and I'm just like, oh. Let's talk about what you're doing here. You're angry about the actions of like 4 guys on the team out of 52, and you want to hurt them in the pocketbook. What's the end goal here? Like, what are you angry about, and how can the NFL remedy the problem? Because you're punishing the NFL right now, not the 4 guys who are kneeling, but the entire organization. Like, what needs to be done to remedy the issue for them?
Well, the thing about it is, the whole issue could have been remedied if they would have gave Kaepernick the job, because he had already said that he wasn't going to kneel this season.
Well, I mean, what about all the other players that do kneel now? Like, I mean, every team got kneeled.
Those players picked up Kaepernick's mantle when it became obvious that the league was blackballing him.
Do you think that's the case, or do you think that they saw the power of his message in general and said, no?
No, because everything hit the fan when it became obvious that they were blackballing him, okay, and then other people kept it going. Okay, and then you had events that happened because, like, Marshawn Lynch hasn't stood for the admin in 11 years. Nobody knows.
Marshawn Lynch doesn't give a damn about anybody right now.
Anyway.
That's funny.
But, so the thing is, other players picked up that mantle when it became obvious that they were blackballing him, and that's why everything kept going on.
So kind of like a Spartacus moment, like I'm Spartacus, no, I'm Spartacus. Punish all of those type of thing.
Right. So then what happened is people tried to say, oh, it's about the veterans and you're.
Man, your mic went out.
But
your mic went out.
Yeah, I'm back at thing.
Yeah.
Should be. But then everybody tried to start saying, oh, it's about the.
This is how it starts.
Yeah, the flag and the national anthem.
Yeah.
Everybody tried to say that it was about that. Well, it's never been about that, but that's what people are, because of the media, that's what people are latching on to.
They find it disrespectful. And I mean,
exactly.
To some degree, I'm with them. I get that. I can see why you would find that disrespectful.
Right, but protest is supposed to be disrespectful.
Right? It's supposed to make you uncomfortable. It's supposed to make you talk about something.
That's the whole point.
Yeah.
There's not any protest in American history that wasn't, supposed to be uncomfortable. You can start with the Boston Tea Party.
Well, yeah.
You can start with that. They didn't go ask King George if they could have the Boston Tea Party, or go ask King George, how can we protest King George? they didn't do that.
Right, exactly.
You can go to labor riots. You can go to women's suffrage movement and civil rights movement, because it's supposed to make people uncomfortable.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm with you on that. Like you sit-ins in restaurants and whatnot. I mean, that was the entire point. If
back in the day, sitting down wanting something to eat made people uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Can I throw in?
Please do.
Can I, as devil's advocate, personally, this for me, Melissa Sander, from my perspective, I think protest for whatever reason is a good thing. If I disagree with the protest or agree with the protest, we have the right to protest, and we should protest if we see something that needs protesting. So I don't have a problem with someone sitting, standing, kneeling, laying prostrate, standing on their head. I don't care. You do you, boo. But I think what a lot of people are up in arms about is because either they haven't taken the time or don't care to take the time to educate themselves about what is being protested. The way the optics look, it looks bad. And I'm not saying it's a bad, the way that Kaepernick has chosen to protest is bad. It's just, you know, who was it? I forgot. I guess it was during the Obama presidency. The big term was optics are everything. How it looks is a big deal. And so for a lot of people that are not educating themselves or bothering to learn more about what's being protested, it looks bad. It looks like, you know, what they're bitching about. They're protesting the flag and disrespecting veterans. That's how the optics look to them.
Sure.
And what I've been kind of proposing, and I don't know, like I said, I don't have a problem. You protest, I'll protest when I see something I want to protest. That's just how we are as Americans. We have that right. But my point was, and I didn't make this clear, and I think today I was like, you know what, maybe I should have taken more time to kind of draw this out further. My point of being a devil's advocate was, well, correlate it for me, because all of these people have obviously misunderstood what's being done here. They're seeing it as being disrespectful to the country, to the flag, to whatnot. And I was trying to find a correlation between a federal or republic symbol, which the flag is by and large a United States federal/republic symbol. Whereas, as I understood it, this was more or less a protest about how people of color have been treated by some idiots in law enforcement, not giving fair treatment to individuals of color by the hands of, you know, jumped up, jacked up law enforcement officers, which is more of a state, local, county type of issue. So I was trying to get people to think maybe the better way to make this make sense to those people that don't choose to educate themselves and draw the correlation, maybe something a little bit more on the level of local law enforcement, who are the ones at issue. Maybe we should have done something a little bit more in line that would draw focus to local law enforcement as opposed to the federal government, if that makes sense.
Well, the thing is, in protest, you use the platform that you have.
That's true.
But
that was what I was trying to say. I think a lot of people were missing the connection because it didn't make.
I think that a lot of people know the connection, but I think that they're uncomfortable with it, which has been the problem with race in this problem in this country. I think that one of the biggest problems that race in this country has always been the 800-pound gorilla in the room that's been kicked to the next generation. Oh, they're going to deal with that. Let them deal with that. You know, and it has been that way really since the Constitution. The Constitution, I think most people here know, is that we live under is not the Constitution that Thomas Jefferson and John Adams originally went to put together. The Southern states wouldn't ratify because it abolished slavery from the beginning of the country. And the Southern states wouldn't ratify it. The Declaration of Independence that we live under is minus 75 items that Thomas Jefferson originally had in it, 35 of which dealt with getting rid of slavery.
Really?
Yeah, so
I did not know that.
We're not living under any of the original stuff that Thomas Jefferson and John Adams came up with. We're living under the stuff that, okay, we're going to compromise, just like every other piece of American legislation. We're just going to compromise and come up with the best thing we can do right now, and we worry about it later.
I mean,
that's where the Civil War came from, because they didn't deal with it. And then Reconstruction came right after the Civil War, and they didn't deal with it then because, you know, they moved federal strict.
Kick the can down the road. Kick that can.
Kick the can down the road. And keep kicking it, and that's what's going on. So now, people usually don't have conversations like we're having, and they feel uncomfortable facing those things. So rather than say, oh yeah, this is about race, or really looking at the problem, they feel more comfortable kind of redirecting the issue. Okay, rather than us sitting up and have a serious discussion about race, let's talk about the flag.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying?
I have to agree with that entirely.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's super uncomfortable.
We feel a lot more comfortable talking about this flag than we do about race.
And that's a knee-jerk reaction too. I mean, how often do people say, well, I never owned slaves, my ancestors did, so that's not my problem. That's a you issue, not a me issue.
And that's a
I think there's two, if I can
really kind of put it together, because, and I was talking to a client of mine today, and she was like, well, in my family, that's we were never taught that. And I was like, well, Lawanda, you know, your family was never taught that. A lot of people were. And a lot of that stuff was just passed down. And that stuff was not. Another thing I get is, oh, that was so long ago. Well, that was only about 54, 55 years ago. That's one lifetime. That's less than one lifetime.
So, right, but even 150 years ago is not that long ago.
Yeah, it's really not.
The reason why I wanted to bring that point up was because, I mean, I was trying to, I mean, and I'm certainly not saying that the people that are saying that the protests are disrespecting the flags or the veterans are right in their assessment. My point was just to say, as a devil's advocate, a lot of people are not understanding the connection because what it boils down to, like I was saying, is that these are some ignorant law enforcement officers that have made ignorant decisions in how they have treated people of color. And I think a lot more people would probably would probably connect the dots better if there was an obvious optics that connected the dots, so that they didn't have to go and do the research.
I mean, hang on, wait.
I kind of disagree with that because, you know, I can remember coming up, and I used to tell my white friends about how, you know, we were treated or followed around stores and stuff. My wife thought I was crazy. Like, oh, that's now we have video of it. Now we have video of it.
Exactly.
Right.
The optics are everywhere. The optics are everywhere. And I was going to say, I mean, I think you want something obvious that you can go walk into your local courtroom on sentencing day and watch.
Yeah, but James, how many people are going to do that, really? And I'm not saying I agree. I'm not. Like I said, I'm just playing devil's advocate. People like nice packages tied up in a good bow that's easy to understand, that they don't have to think too much about to try to connect the dots on their own. Connect them for me. So the point I'm trying to make is it probably would have been less controversial for all of the people that are protesting. If they understood the dots a little bit better.
Sure.
But you know, actually, I have to jump in here. I actually think this protest is beautiful in its simplicity, in that, you know, you're saying, here are the things that this country supposedly stands for and these ideals that we say that we do and hold dear. And, you know, those things are not true for a very large segment of the population.
Yeah.
And, you know, kneeling in the face of the national anthem and saying, hey, you made some promises and you haven't followed up on them and you haven't kept your word, I think is like kind of like it's poetic. And it's a systemic problem. It's not just law enforcement. I mean,
yeah.
Jasmine is dying to tell you about it.
What I really wanted to do was
just like can't stand it.
I just want to put better words in your mouth for a second. I was going to say what this country or what this flag does not stand for right now. I won't stand for it. That's kind of what you're saying, I think. If it's not going to stand for me, I'm not going to stand for it.
You're telling me what I'm
Did you just mansplain her?
No.
Did you just mansplain Siobhan?
I mansplained brevity is what I mansplained. She was saying a whole lot where
please, I'm a lawyer. Wordsmithing is my job. Okay.
They never taught you at Baylor that brevity is the soul of wit?
No. I was waxing poetic and you weren't appreciating it.
You went to Baylor?
Oh, for law school.
I went to Baylor, undergraduate.
Waco actually was more fun than I thought it would be. I'll be honest.
Yeah, I got in a lot of trouble with Waco.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. They, I think
Waco. I was at Waco when I was at Fort Hood. We used to go to Waco.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
Well, I can't imagine going out to Waco.
Oh no, it's like the guys from Fort Hood and the guys from Killeen.
Like, yeah, Army guys go to Waco on the weekends.
Yeah.
You're okay with me.
I understand. Military will always flock to the college town.
Well, y'all excuse me. I've got to go recharge and find out what my dog is doing.
God, Melissa.
My dog is barking at something outside, some kind of threat unseen, and I can't tell what it is. I gotta go check her out. I'll be right back.
The ghost. Well, since James interrupted me.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. But
The thing, one of the things that I wanted to say, a minute ago, if I remember what my thoughts are, there is sort of two issues. There's sort of, Melissa's not here to talk to you about it, but that I think the reason the optics of people who view it negatively, that they view it as disrespecting the flag or disrespecting our troops or, disrespecting, wounded and fallen veterans and all this stuff. I think that is a product of punditry by and large, that the Fox Newses and the Breitbarts have said, oh, look at what Kaepernick's doing. He's disrespecting our troops. He's disrespecting our flags. He's not a patriot. He's being un-American. And they took that fucking ball and ran with it. And that's why most people see it as that now. And there's two tracks to this. One, they believe that narrative, and they believe those optics are telling them, what it is that has been told to them. And the other side of it is that once you get in, and it's beautiful what Kaepernick has done, because it's worked, because now we're all talking about race. And the other track of this is, that these are going to be the same people that are going to tell you that there isn't a problem with race, that
that's true.
There isn't systemic racism. That's just a bunch of whiny losers. I was told this like 2 days ago of a guy I was trying to bait to come on the show. He never came out, unfortunately. But go ahead,
that Titans fan analogy is the exact same thing. It was basically, the Titans themselves put out a statement saying, we didn't even take the field. We stayed in the locker room. We had no disrespect for the military. We love them very much. We constantly were doing, salute to service and all kinds of things to respect the military. And that response that he had was the exact same thing, was that he's not even going to recognize that fact because it definitely got fed to him from Breitbart or somebody like that this is a disrespectful thing. I'm like, you have evidence, direct testimony from the people who you're talking about telling you that has nothing to do with the military and they love and respect veterans.
And it doesn't matter because that, go ahead.
Look, I try to tell people that people don't realize, a lot of people still, that before 2009, the players weren't even required to be on the field. And that the only reason that they're on the field.
We lost you, man. It says alt-right hacker trolls are messing with your mic, dude.
We lost.
Come on. No. Let's be real. That's the NSA.
That's the man. Yeah, Trump's doing it.
It's the $12 million that the military paid the NFL is why they stand on the field now.
Yeah.
And that it's a whole a money and recruitment thing for the Army. So, I mean, before that, they weren't even required to be out there. They stayed in the locker room just like college teams.
Yeah. No, that's exactly right.
Also, can I just say that I think it's troubling that we link, respect for veterans with pledging allegiance to the flag or singing the national anthem. I mean, I have a problem with linking that kind of a sentimentality to, a ritual like that, like a very nationalistic ritual that frankly most other countries do think is kind of crazy. I mean, it's like, because yeah. Yeah, I mean, in Germany, that shit don't fly. Like, you tried pledging.
Brad Wing, the football player for the New York Giants?
Mm-hmm.
He went to LSU, and his mom, I worked with his mom at the gym I trained at. And she was like, she thought that was insane, how everybody does that. And most people outside the States do that. And the fact that I was bringing up to another person was that you think about the countries who do all the flag waving. China, North Korea, Nazi Germany, Japan, Italian Axis. You think about the countries, the former Soviet Union.
Yeah.
What do they have in common?
ISIS. They all want to be identified by
flag waving. All the flag waving countries, what do they have in common? So, I mean, it's really something to think about because the rest of the world doesn't really do that. It's only the dictatorships and the power mongrels that do that. Which the United States has like 800 military bases around the world.
Yeah, well, we want to talk imperialism. We can do that.
Come on. So we could easily be kind of thrown into that group, even though we stand for freedom Yeah, and you know that we're supposed to stand for freedom and stuff. So.
Hey, Paco, you're muted. Well, there you go.
I understand. I guess I have a little bit of a question. I don't know if anybody military affiliated, that there's something about like there's some rule or something in the military that like when I don't know if it's the anthem or the pledge or whatever it is, but like you're supposed to you're required as part of like uniform code or something like that, and it's considered compulsory behavior. Like, does anybody know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that's
yeah. You stand at attention. You face a certain way for the flag. Also, in the evening, whenever the bugle call in the evening, or like on Fort Hood, no matter where you are, even if you were driving, you stopped driving.
Yeah.
You stopped driving and you stood at attention. You faced the direction. Either if you couldn't see the flag, you faced the direction that the music was coming from.
Mm-hmm. And that's to play devil's advocate a little bit. I think that has a lot to do with this idea of veterans being upset or people upset for veterans or whatever. Well, some are. I know veterans that are upset.
Well, I mean, you're not like any other group of people. You're not a monolith. Like,
yeah, but I'm just saying, I think that's part of the argument, though. Is kind of that selfless service idea is that if you do join the military and you go active duty, you don't really have many constitutional rights. Like, they're kind of gone. You're under the UCMJ. Like, that's something entirely different. You don't have free speech. You can't even get tattoos. You know, like, there are rules.
Right, you can get waivers or something for them, right?
Yeah, there's a cap number. You get, I think it's 7. I think you're around 7 before you start disqualifying for officer and all kinds of stuff. Like,
who's going to check, though? I mean, seriously, are they going to strip you naked and kind of have tattoos?
Well, they do that. Yes, that does happen. Yes, that's exactly what you are not. You don't have right. You are property.
Requirements for officers, like, we want you to look fit in a suit.
That you get that. I mean, seriously, that you are United States property, and that is drilled in your head when you join the military. You are not your own man. You are an extension of the Army, or you're an extension of the Navy. You're an extension of your branch.
So I think I do want to say something on behalf of people who may have negative feelings about it in regards to military service, because I know people who do. I don't share the same logic. But if we're, as we pointed out, if there's an obligation to stand at attention and do certain acts when the national anthem is playing, I think people are going to have a mental association from their time in the military with their military service with the national anthem. I think also with oftentimes the military being present during the national anthem, now whatever the cause for that, there may be various causes for that, I think they may view that as, you know, if there's a color guard that's holding the flag, they may view that as we are standing towards the military, therefore there is some symbolic act towards the military in that regard. So I can see that, and regardless of the justifications for the feeling, people still do feel that, and we can't deny people's feelings, right? We might say we don't feel the same way, or we might say, hey, let's not ignore the message of the people who are protesting, but I think we can't deny other people's feelings. Now, I think maybe the best way to positively reflect the message is to try and shift it back towards the intent and the message of the people who are protesting. So I just want to add that in.
I mean, I think that's a fair point, Doug, that a lot of people are hurt by what they consider the meanings. But again, you're right. I mean, the national anthem has, you know, many different meanings based on your opinion, right? It's incredibly subjective. But at the same time, I think that the vast majority of people, if they do some honest introspection, wow, that wine is getting to me. If they do some honest introspection.
Do you want James to help you out again?
Yeah, would you how to phrase things quickly so James can pick up on it faster? Sorry.
Anyway, you were saying.
Anyway, like I was saying, if they were to do some honest introspection, I think that a lot of them would come to terms with the fact that the underlying message, what is being protested, is what makes them uncomfortable. I mean, I can tell you, anytime this topic or anything even tangentially related to race comes up in my lily white Irish family, everybody's like, oh no, I think we'll pour another bottle of wine and let's talk about something else. You know, it's like incredibly uncomfortable for, like, I mean, like white people in general, frankly.
That's a Northern Irish thing, right?
What?
Yeah.
That's kind of a Northern Irish thing, right? Like I've got we're all Southern Irish in my family. And it's a bottle of whiskey, and let's talk about this shit right now.
Oh my God! You probably do Boston whiskey, you little Irish, like British bitch.
Oh, British. Yeah.
Which all you drink is bourbon anyway, James.
Ireland. Ugh. Northern Ireland.
Sounds like Northern Ireland. I don't know.
Protestant heathen.
Me?
Okay, back to the topic at hand.
No.
One of the thoughts that I had about, and the reason I was asking the question earlier, that military people and people who have strong admiration for military people, that these are individuals who, as we've all acknowledged, have given up a great deal of their personal freedoms to become part of the military and become part of this thing that's been literally, drilled into you, right? In terms of compelled behavior. And I think when you see a situation like this, they're still looking at it. A lot of them still are looking at it the same way they were at that time. You don't disrespect the flag. You do this at this time. You do this at that time. You don't even think about it. And it makes it extremely difficult to have a conversation when you have someone who is viewing the flag and viewing their actions towards the flag through a completely different lens than they are. Like, how do you bridge that gap? I wish we had, somebody here who, was a little bit more belligerent about the protests. But anyway, lost you again, man.
And he goes right being cut out of him.
Yeah, I'm a veteran. Like I said, I'm a veteran myself, and I think that a lot of veterans, we understand that the most important thing is the Constitution. We're representing the Constitution of the United States.
Yeah.
Because the fact of the matter is this: the Constitution can stand without any symbolism, but the flag and the bald eagle and all these other symbols, they can't stand without the Constitution. So the Constitution is the thing. And so when you serve in the military, you're not serving the flag or the national anthem. You're serving to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America.
Damn right.
And everything that it stands for, including the right to protest. And that's what a lot of, because I was on a Veterans for Kaepernick page. I don't know if y'all know about that hashtag. That's why a lot of veterans, even if they disagree with him, they understand why we serve. It's not for a national anthem that used to be a bar song, okay? I mean,
I did not know that.
Okay, it took 100 years for them to approve it to get it to be the national anthem in the first place. It was a bar song. All right.
Those are the best songs.
Those are the best songs, though. Those are the best songs.
Even if this one's kind of racist.
First, to make it a little more wholesome, but like bar songs the best.
Yeah, I always thought America the Beautiful should be the anthem. That was my personal opinion.
I'm into that one, actually. That one's way prettier too.
But veterans are to understand that we uphold the Constitution. That's why we go to war. That's why we serve. So Americans can have their rights, not so they can serve the flag or to serve a national anthem. So I mean, I haven't run into too many veterans personally in person who don't understand that.
Well, the thing I get from a lot of people is that they do understand it. A lot of veterans that I know that are upset about it, they do understand it. But they're angry at something. They can't tell you what they're angry about because they don't have an end goal. They don't know what the end goal is. They want black people to stop making them uncomfortable. That's what they want. And they won't say it. There's no way you can get them to say it. I mean, I tried so hard just holding their hands, being babying them, just walking them down the line. Like, what is the goal here? How can the NFL make you feel better? Please don't abandon my Titans. I think sucks as it is. We need better.
Hey, Jasmina. I think Clarence is trying to say something.
That's just like the Alton Sterling shooting that happened last year. Well, it was like, well, why are you protesting? I was like, well, basically, y'all not upset about the protest. Y'all upset because y'all can't get to Starbucks because they got back in the middle of the road. That's what you're upset at, okay? Because you don't really care about anything that's going on anyway. You're trying to get to Starbucks. They got a bunch of black folks in the middle of the road.
Yeah.
You can't get past them.
Sorry, you guys, black people in the way of my pumpkin spice latte.
Well, you mean that Starbucks that has those red cups that everybody finds so offensive?
I mean?
Oh, those Tommy bastards.
They know what's going on. To me, most people understand. They know what's going on. They know what the purpose of it is that they just don't like it. They don't like it. They think that, oh, well, you've got X amount of rights now. What's the issue?
Yeah.
No, you're a millionaire. Shut up and be happy.
I'm trying to remember how it was phrased.
You're an NFL player. You make a lot of money, so you should be happy. Well, like I told somebody today, that doesn't guarantee that you won't experience racism. Because you have look at what happened to Michael Bennett.
Yeah, well, apparently that one's still up in the air, but I know exactly what you mean. It doesn't. No one's going to recognize you if you are one guy that's not like Odell Beckham Jr. or something. If you get in the middle of something, yeah, you're the black dude that's fucking ripped and tall and athletic. You're the danger.
Police will grab the first black dude they see.
Exactly.
They will do that.
Yeah.
So it's like, there's that whole thing, and then like even being down south, I don't know where everybody is right now, but even being down south, it doesn't really come from like I told somebody, it doesn't really come from the police. It comes from the community, because in my point of view, the police academy doesn't teach that. The police academy teaches what I learned in the army, which is tactics. When you run into these cops that have problems with black people, it's because they got that from their community. They got that from their home.
A little bit.
And they got that on the police force.
A little bit. I was going to say, but I've seen this a lot as a prosecutor I'd be teaching basically seminars at least once a month on, new law and what's going on, everything like that. And you can kind of get the jokes coming from supervisors, from sergeants, from people like, even captains that would be sitting there making, off-color sounding racist jokes and things like this. Like, oh, profiling this. Oh, we got to change our profiling methods. Everyone's laughing about it because it's understood to be part of the system. And to some small degree, racial profiling is allowable. If you're, for example, if you're a white dude in a high-crime black neighborhood at 1 o'clock in the morning and you keep circling the block and trying to talk to people outside the window, what triggered me is the fact that you're white triggered me. Like, what are you doing on here?
Like, if you have, some of my relatives, they stay in one of, I guess they used to, it still kind of is, but the Eden Park area in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
They cut you out again.
Certain times of night, if you see white people in that area, you know what they're there for.
Yeah, exactly. There's one of two things, drugs or prostitution.
They're either there to buy or they're there to drop off.
Yeah.
Shit.
No, that's definitely true. Like, I grew up in a town that's one of the poorest counties in the country, and it's 90% Hispanic, and I'm like a 6-foot tall ginger. Like, if I get a certain people are like, what are you doing here?
Yeah. Definitely.
It's true. Yeah.
So there is.
But I think what we're talking about is.
That is, I know. So the fact that there is a little
putting over black people with a frequency, like was allowed in New York for a while. I don't know if they're still doing that.
Stop and frisk.
Stop and frisk.
Exactly. Stop and frisk.
That's what we're talking about. Just, you might not even be doing anything. They just roll up on you. Oh, we got a call and some dudes look just like you. Oh, really?
Stop and frisk.
Yeah, because you can tell that.
Stop and frisk is statutory. Stop and frisk is statutory in Tennessee.
Because the thing is this: we were walking in a French Quarter, and all of a sudden the police rolled up on us, and we were like, "Well, why y'all stopping us?" And we were like, "Oh, we got a call. We got a call for a description that y'all fit." We're like, "Wait a minute, you got a call for 4 black guys walking through the French Quarter? Four black guys. Exactly 4. You got another call like that 4 black guys walking through the French Quarter at this particular hour. So this happened to be another 4 black guys walking through the French Quarter. This happened a long time ago, but I'm just saying, that's how it is. It's like,
no, it is, exactly. Well, let's stop and check and see what's in your pockets.
Yeah, when I first started at Baylor, they had a serious Baylor Law School. They had a serious problem with armed robberies. Like, somebody was robbing kids on campus, like kicking in their doors to their apartments or robbing them on campus. And I was like, I don't know, walking distance from a Dairy Queen. That's how you know I'm from Texas. I live walking distance from a Dairy Queen. But yeah, so this Dairy Queen,
massive. It's massive.
this Dairy Queen got knocked over like 4 times in the first 6 months that I lived in Waco. And every single time I get this email from campus security saying, and I quote, like, suspect is a 20-something African-American male of average build, average height, wearing a hoodie. And that was literally the description. And you're just like, so that's like 150 people within a mile.
That's everybody. That's everybody.
Does that not make you think R.I.P. Trayvon Martin? Like that description right there was that's it.
Mario, jump in.
He's like, no,
I was just listening. Can y'all hear me okay? I haven't done a sound test with this stuff.
You're good.
All right, I'm in the studio. We got some people from LA here, and they're out there playing the drums and doing all this stuff. So I was just leaving it on mute so it didn't, keep popping up and stuff. So.
Well, good deal. Good deal. Glad to have you.
Glad to be here.
Good job. What are your thoughts?
I was just trying to catch up. Where do you start with this?
Yeah, right.
Because I don't know what all you guys have covered. I've got a different way of thinking about a lot of it. A lot of people assume because you're black, you're already on board and everything like that. And to an extent, I'm on board with the protest. I'm not going to say I'm not on board with it, but a lot of people have to realize where they stand with the protest. And what I mean by that is a lot of people that are raising hell about the protest. Are we cursing? Can we curse in here? No.
Absolutely.
Okay, I didn't know. So, a lot of people don't realize who they are in the protest. Like, when we go back and we watch these old protest videos of Martin Luther King and all that stuff, and we see, you see the group of white men throwing bottles and cursing them and stuff and all that. A lot of these people that are raising hell, that's them today. They were the present day version of those people. And they won't realize that till 20 years later when they're talking about this on the History Channel or something, Another thing, there's so many misconceptions with it, like the teams when they're not participating. I don't necessarily think they're not protesting. They're protesting. They're just choosing not to be involved. And everyone's like, well, I'm not a Ravens fan anymore.
You mean like the Titans, like how the Titans stay in the locker room?
Yes, exactly. Like, that doesn't necessarily mean that they are agreeing with Kaepernick or the protest. It just means they're choosing not to be involved. Or they're choosing. Go ahead.
Well, like Mike Thomas with the Steelers in the Titans where
Tomlin, yeah.
Yeah, they couldn't come to an agreement, so they agreed to stay in the locker room.
Poland.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Like, they removed themselves from the conversation, which is the equivalent of an absentee vote, where they're like, I'm not going to vote yes or no, I'm just going to remove myself. Which,
Right, and there was that snafu with the one player who ended up coming, and he came out afterwards explaining, like, we weren't really trying to separate that much, that something happened, like when they were coming down the tunnel or something like that, about making...
The team was only about 7 steps back.
Yeah.
You just couldn't see them.
Right, exactly. But again, it's optics. When do you take the picture? What do you want to make it look like? We see this all the time, and both sides do it.
Which I think was crystal fucking clear when we saw what the Cowboys did. Which, the Cowboys...
That was a cop-out.
Total fucking cop-out. Literally a middle finger to Trump that says, don't tell me what I can and can't do, but I am not going to tell you that I'm standing with Kaepernick. Like, that was exactly what they said. Yeah. It was totally like, fuck you for trying to tell me what to do, but I am not going to say shit about racial injustice. We're going to talk about unity. And I was just like...
Yeah, exactly. We're not going to talk about each other again. We're going to talk about unity. That's why all this stuff going on now is just garbage. It really is. It's just like...
It's all bandwagon at this point.
Yeah, they have to do something or else they stand out from the crowd. To me, the ones that were the most meaningful were the ones who were like, we have our teammates who were kneeling, and then we are there, like, you know, holding hands with them or locking arms with them in solidarity, like, not, you know, like, we respect what they're doing, not this bullshit, like, we're not even going to join the conversation, or let's kneel for 30 seconds before the national anthem, and then we're going to stand up in a show of unity.
Yep.
Oh my God, James. Thank you. Again, I should just...
No, I had to call Jerry Jones out. I had to call Jerry Jones out.
Was dummy tonight or what?
I was on your team. I had to call Jerry Jones out on that one. Fuck Jerry Jones. I hate Jerry Jones.
You could have called Jerry Jones out like 3 times in the past 5 minutes. Where the fuck have you been, Jasmina?
So, I was doing that thing that you were doing earlier. We needed a refill.
Hey, can you guys hear that? Can you hear the drums? Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, we can.
Oh, buddy. Hold on. Let me see if I can turn this down a little bit. What about now?
That's pretty good.
That's a little better.
Yeah.
We got a nice little beat to go on the conversation. It'll be all right.
The ball, what glass are you on?
Say what? Say what glasses on?
The ball, what glass are you on?
Man, I'm on this Popeye's chicken right now. That's all I'm on.
Oh, man. Okay, so I read this, speaking of the Popeye's chicken, I read this article today that was about every quarterback in the NFL as a fast food brand or whatever. And Drew Brees, of course, got Popeye's chicken, and he was just like, everything is magic.
He's from New Orleans. He's not even from New Orleans. He's from Austin.
No, but it's a comparison. It's a comparison with Brees. It was like, everything they do in their industry is magic. It was like, but occasionally the indigestion will fuck you up.
Yeah.
It was pretty great.
I will say I never understood the attraction of Popeye's chicken until I had it in New Orleans, and I was like, this is actually really fucking good.
Right?
It's terrible.
Years there.
Oh, the chains are terrible. But I will say, if y'all are in Houston, Lee's Fried Chicken down the street from me, fucking awesome. And then there are a couple of places that I
We used to have a Lee's here in Columbia, I think.
Yeah. What oh yeah, we
They
did.
sell donuts too.
No, they did not.
No, not that one. Nope.
You can't bring brothers and cops together, okay?
Hey, Bill. Bill just joined us.
Hey,
Oh, what's happening, Bill?
Hi, everyone else.
Hey.
Good way to put it. We were just talking about fast food.
Yeah,
Krispy Kreme in New Orleans. Krispy Kreme, you can bring some cops and some brothers together.
Yeah.
that's only because that motherfucker's open at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Especially when the highlight is on.
Yeah.
4 o'clock in the morning in New Orleans, the French Quarter don't fucking matter. Everybody's in there.
Yeah, it's like the donut here. It's like fresh
We get along to get some of the Krispy Kreme donuts. We get along that long.
Yeah, no, that's like senior partner in a law firm, 6 cops, and like 3 freaking straight D-boys all up in the same spot. Like, just waiting. Like, it's all.
Doesn't Nashville have the original Krispy Kreme? Wasn't the very first one ours?
I don't know. Man. It doesn't
Ours,
matter.
I say.
The only one that
Y'all's.
matters, that one in the French Quarter. That's the only one that matters.
Oh, I
That's
see.
hot donut.
Yeah, it's a New Orleans icon. I don't know where it started, but it's a New Orleans icon.
Yeah, no, we all live and breathe by that. That French Quarter, like the right off of what is that? What road is that right there?
I can't even say. I've been
Right near the river. Yeah, the one right by the river. That's what's up. That Krispy Kreme is my jam.
And the smell gets in your nose. Once the smell gets in your nose, that's it.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Everybody's working and fucked up.
Do you guys start turning?
Do you guys feel like? Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Do you guys feel like? Trying to change gears here for a second.
Sure, yeah, please.
Do you guys feel like that, with the internet and with all the streaming television, and with the decline of views in television, that this whole race thing being slammed in our face all day is just a way to compensate for the lost, the views, the ratings, the lost ratings. Like it's the last hoorah. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it is used. Race is constantly used. because that's one of the biggest things that can get eyes to the heads to the television. So that's racist.
Right.
I think
A lot of people want to say that it is a government agenda, and the government does own the media in some sense, but but I feel like it's more of just a media rating agenda than it is just the government. Like.
Can I give you an example of that?
Go ahead.
Clarence, you're breaking up.
During the Ocean Sterling shooting in the marches, you had people swearing that there were riots and there were disturbances all down Airline Highway in Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
And I would have to tell people, no.
You broke up right when you said no.
Yeah, I would have to tell people, no, that's just that one little area where the New Black Panthers were. The rest of that entire protest out there was peaceful. But that's not what we saw on the news or any of the
No, and you had a lot of
all of you would have.
You cut out again. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you would have sworn that all of Airline Highway was on fire, and it was only like a little block.
Right.
Here. Not even a block. It was like just one little area that stuff was going on.
Right.
But that's not how it's portrayed, because you're absolutely right, Mario, is that the news networks, they're going, you guys always remember they're going for ratings.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep. Well,
didn't we have an interesting conversation Monday? If anyone checks out the podcast, on Monday we interviewed a guy who considered himself, a proponent of Antifa. It was a really interesting conversation. He was also a pacifist. Which you go, what? Don't those guys show up to fight Nazis? Not physically fight them. But one of the things that he was talking about is, I guess there was there was supposed to be a white nationalist rally in Boston, I think it was, maybe a month or so ago.
Yes.
And
I was in Washington with the Juggalos, right?
No.
This is a different one.
After Charlottesville.
Okay.
Yeah, this was just after Charlottesville, and like thousands and thousands of protesters showed up to protest what basically ended up being like a couple dozen of these white nationalist Nazi fucks, and some of them were Antifa, and one or two of these people were showing out. And so again, about optics and ratings is that they made it look like, in some of the media narratives, that there was thousands of Antifa showed up to have a big riot, just like Charlottesville, 2.0. And of course, that was completely inaccurate. So, I think it's a little bit analogous. So, sorry to go off on a tangent, but I had to plug the podcast. Anyway.
I think what I wanted to ask, actually, Paco or DeMario, which should you prefer on air? Because, I'm going to call you Paco, obviously.
And it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? We can take a vote later if you want to.
Full of the Paco.
I like Paco.
I personally feel like the poll option on Facebook has been grossly utilized ever since we tried to decide whether or not James was
communist or
No. It was an anarchist. There we go. James McVeigh is a secret anarchist.
I thought he was a hate
lazy to be an anarchist, first of all.
Thank you. I let my money work for me.
Yes, James, he's not doing any of that. He's not burning anything, okay?
No, capitalism, baby. No, I believe in the power of contract and the law and the courts.
Oh, James.
Anywho, but here's what I was going to say is, I thought a lot of misrepresentation of what you were saying is from a different perspective. You have these people who are championing like a 5% loss in viewership, saying that's because Kaepernick kneeled and they fucked them and we're protesting this and this is our protest. And I'm over here thinking, actually, it's because millennials, by and large, aren't going to pay for local television. Don't give a good goddamn. They stream things, and if they want to watch football, they go to a bar to do it.
Well, here at the studio, we stream everything. We go on to ESPN.com and
you can't stream NFL football. Not unless you're in the local market. Pay for that. You pay for that, baby. Or
Amazon Fire Stick.
Yeah, okay.
I'll let you know about that. Let me tell you about my nigga Cody, okay?
Wait. We're going to leave Cody out of this. Legal reasons, but on a different note, I can't watch modern football now in like 480i. Like I can't handle that.
No, it's good. It's good. Man, don't make me drag my webcam out there.
No, that's that bullshit. This shit we're looking at right now, I couldn't stand that. No
yeah.
I got to be in like full HD. I'm watching replays and all kinds of shit.
Yeah.
I'm serious about my NFL.
That's funny. Well, I mean, it's.
I was there with you.
Just for a second, Bill brought something to my attention that I thought was pretty interesting. Working off of Demario's point of, whether or not this stuff is getting hyped by the media. So, Bill, unmute yourself, sir.
He's still pounding his face. I want to talk about.
What are you eating?
I don't know. It looks good.
So just as an introduction, Bill is my little brother's best friend, so he's like my adopted little brother.
Aw, Bill.
I know. Here's Bill. He's a pharmacist.
That's cool. You my little.
He's also a Bernie bro, so we're gonna forgive him.
Oh yeah.
You finish.
But I would do not lean. But, okay, so some interesting stuff brought to my attention. You guys are talking about whether this is like our government trying to influence us or the media trying to hype up.
Hey, Doug, we're getting some for
Bye, Doug.
Turn your mic off.
There it gets fixed again. Bill, continue.
Yeah.
But if you Google Boston anti-fact and then type in Russia, you'll find that the Boston anti-fascist Twitter handle is created and run by some dudes in Russia because they didn't turn off their location.
Yes, that happened today. That was so wonderful.
Dude, shut the fuck up and let somebody talk.
It was so great. Don't understand
Milton Friedman and pencils, guaranteed. But yeah, so this isn't really just the media trying to get ratings. This isn't just the government or the deep state trying to sow discord and make us fight amongst each other. This is also now how much of this is Russia. We don't know. It could just be this one handle, but I highly doubt it.
I read an article on that, on what you're talking about the other day.
Dude, it's nuts. It is nuts. We are, literally some of our fellow countrymen are falling prey to, paid trolls from a foreign country that have anti-American interests that are literally just trying to make them angry. It isn't.
Well, I mean,
that's a larger portion than some of really encapsulates.
How big of a trick are they pulling? I mean, just a few weeks ago, we saw people marching with Nazi flags and American flags. I don't think they're having to try real hard to dupe these people.
I'm not saying they're having to try real hard on making the whites showing off the white supremacists. Those guys do a good enough job of themselves. But by and large, the people that are responding to that and saying no, that's not what America is standing for. We have Russian trolls pretending to be those people to try and give them a bad image and make
That's true. I get what you're saying. I understand.
And also, I have yet to read it because I've been selling drugs all day. But there's an article that legally, we love our legal drugs, don't we, folks? They're
I want to point out that morally you're fucked, but legally.
Whoa! Take the scales from your own eyes, sir.
I can see anything. I'm covered by the blindfold of justice. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I can see
David is the only one who got the scales from your eyes joke, but whatever.
I did, yeah.
Look at you.
But I saw this article. I have yet to read it, so this opinion or this thought definitely needs to ferment some. But I saw this article that was headlined, Russians pretended to be American Muslims on the internet to try and sow discord during the election year and give them a bad image. So whether or not this is an isolated incident, I don't really know because I have yet to read that. But given how dark and how large of a cloud the whole, Russian problem is over the White House and over 2016 elections, I don't think they've necessarily stopped. And I think they've possibly discovered that they can try and fracture the U.S. and get some infighting going on to try and demoralize us as a populace to elect, more crappy leaders like Donald Trump. And so it's just something to think about. When you see the worst of the right or the worst of the left, you have to have an air of skepticism and recognize that might just be someone literally trying to pull one over on you. And I don't think enough Americans have realized that.
Propaganda at its finest.
Yeah, no, that's 100% true. And based on the information that Facebook has turned over to both Mueller and to Congress, that's true. I mean, it's far more extensive than we assumed it was.
So there's an international theory that just if you can disrupt the domestic issues facing a nation, then you can distract them from international issues abroad. So that probably is the big overarching item that might be going on. To what extent? I don't think we have the intelligence, and I mean not brain power, but collected intelligence to know that. There probably are people who know that. We've had Comey go on record as saying multiple branches of the intelligence community all support the idea that Russia has been interfering with elections. I think this is one facet of it. I think we see this on multiple platforms of social media. I think we see this with bots that are retweeting or reposting articles that are inflammatory. I think we may see people who are spreading ideas that are polarizing, maybe not necessarily falsehoods, but just as was mentioned by William here, that you're just, if you create division and you try to polarize people, particularly on hot button issues or uncomfortable issues like race, then I think you get a lot of fracture going on socially, distracting A, from international goings on, but also B, just domestic policies and creating effective solutions to domestic issues that are going on too. So I think there's
Clarence, no, I'm sorry, Clarence, go ahead, you jump in.
I think that's part of Trump's game, is distracting. A lot of it's just to keep eyes off the Russian investigation.
Oh, yeah. You think a lot of it's wagging the dog?
Yeah, I think a lot of it's tweeting and stuff like that is to keep eyes off the Russian investigation that's going on.
Well, it's a moving target too. That's I know we've gone a little tangential, but it's a moving target too, and I think that's a thing that Trump's been very successful. That he does so many says and does so many ridiculous things in a week. It's not, you can't go after him consistently because, well, 1 minute it's this thing, next minute it's another thing. A day later it's something completely different, and it's constant and perpetual, and it keeps you in motion, following what he's doing. And it makes it difficult to be consistent in calling out, what the deeper issues are.
I wanted to ask a question of anybody here. I don't know. Siobhan, I know we were talking about this before, and I think you put me on with it. Has anyone else watched the Oliver Stone Putin interviews?
No.
Okay, that's straight 4 hours of getting to know Putin very well.
I think more than 4 hours. It's divided into 4 parts, and it's straight up documentary film.
You don't think
Stone interviewing Vladimir Putin.
There's no way you couldn't watch that and not realize this man is dumping millions and millions of dollars into investing people to get on the internet and fuck with us. That's what they're doing. I guarantee that program is much more widespread than we think it is, and we fall for that shit every time.
He is way smarter than any of us give him credit for. I mean,
Brilliant.
He's former KGB. I don't put anything past him.
Also a lawyer, and he is. You listen to the words that he uses and the way that he presents himself.
America.
I mean, he hits the nail on the head in a lot of ways. Where he describes what American foreign policy is and the problems with what's going on. And he is I'm not a Vladimir Putin fan, but he is clearly incisive. I mean, he's a lot smarter than people give him credit for.
I respect him a lot more after watching that. I respect him a lot.
I do too. I do not agree with his.
Should scare the hell out of all of us.
Don't agree with his ideology. Don't agree with his methodology. But is he?
I would at this point I would describe his methodology as neo-Machiavellian. Like I'm terrified. Like Donald Trump is our that man is fucking brilliant. Like I'm scared. I'm really worried.
Never seen a most egregious mismatch of world powers in my entire.
God, he's running circles around us. And we're embarrassing. I mean, like what we're doing is embarrassing, and he's orchestrating it. Like he's pushing the buttons. He's got our president tweeting about the motherfucking NFL, and he's doing that. His country is doing that.
Yeah.
And I have no doubt.
Meanwhile, Puerto Rico is seeing worse or as bad as devastation from hurricanes as Hurricane Katrina did to New Orleans 12 years ago, and nobody's paying attention to that.
Almost nobody's talking about it. Exactly, 3.5 million people without power, multiple people dead. I know, devastation. It's horrible.
But no people doing this.
Well, apparently 50% of Americans don't know that Puerto Ricans are citizens too.
Exactly, yeah.
Pretty sure Trump thinks they're Mexicans.
Yeah.
Come on.
Right? I mean, that country's been without power for like a week. Completely without power. Like,
I know. One of my friends who's
and it's crazy. Like they don't have electricity at all.
a friend of mine is affluent and from Puerto Rico. She lives there. We went to school together at Loyola in undergrad, and she has been trying to get off the island since right after the hurricane calmed down. She said her nearest launch time will be October 14th.
Oh, jeez.
Jeez.
Yeah, I mean, she can pay thousands of dollars for a plane ticket. It's not a problem. You can't get the planes. They don't exist. You can't leave the island. And the whole island doesn't have fucking power or anything. It's bad. She's tweeting. She's getting on Facebook for like a second at a time. She's like, I'll update you guys in the next few days. I'm trying to conserve as much power as possible. I can occasionally find a generator or somebody like wandering around my city to find a generator to charge my phone for a minute. And
oh my God.
Can you imagine walking up to some people? You got all this devastation going on. You're like, yeah, hey, bro, can I plug up this iPhone real quick? Man, the Puerto Rican people are probably like, what in the world? You know what I'm saying? We got bigger problems than your iPhone right now.
What weekend?
The other thing to consider, too, is that Puerto Rico filed for bankruptcy earlier this year, which is unfucking impressive.
Well, we all know that because Donald Trump tweeted about it, of course.
Oh, did he? Did he?
Oh, yes, he said that they have bigger problems there in debt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that.
I don't remember the number, but I'm pretty sure it's close to something like $90 billion.
So, guys, I feel like we're super off topic.
Oh, we are super
Well,
off topic.
I was getting ready to circle us back around here in a second.
Right.
Thank you for calling. Go ahead, Doug.
So I do think more attention is being addressed to what happened to Puerto Rico. I think the Trump administration's response has been slow, and it's rightful to be critical of that. I think we all agree that they need assistance and help. So I don't think it's as divisive as an issue. I think the depth of the conversation as to what needs to be done is pretty shallow. But I do think maybe one concern that people might have, because I think I probably had it too, is maybe there might be a feeling of a lack of sympathy in that there are certain federal taxes that aren't paid by Puerto Rico. So some people might think they might not be as deserving of help as Florida and Texas. But look, as it's been stated.
I don't even know. I mean, hey, you've been in Houston lately? I'm just saying. But at the same.
But hey, yeah, let me just finish. So, clearly, this is a country that's been set back potentially decades in terms of their infrastructure and the development that they need. They need assistance. It's very important, right? They don't have electricity for their entire grid's knocked out. That's
yeah, they won't have electricity for months.
But look, I think we all agree that they need assistance and they need help. The Trump administration has been slow to help them. Trump's visit that he plans on doing next Tuesday is just piecemeal. It doesn't mean anything. I think that's the extent of it.
Let's just bring in a waiver for the Jones Act with him. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
It goes back to the whole argument that was made during Katrina, is that you're not responding to brown people.
Damn right.
Okay? Because if this was in a total, if it was a white territory,
Florida,
and that's the mentality that people have.
But I don't think it's that. I think part of it may be that, but I think it's also because this isn't part of the contiguous United States, and it's also a territory and not a state. I think that is another factor.
I'll agree with that, but because of that, not looked at. It's like the country has a history of looking at other countries.
Why is it not the question becomes, why is it not part of the contiguous United States?
James, be quiet.
Because the reason it's not is because there's a large contingency of Puerto Rico that still does not want to become to the United States with their rules and everything else.
But they have voted that way most recently, but now it's up to us to accept them in statehood. And why don't we want to accept them in statehood?
And that's why a lot of them want to. One of my best friends in the Army was from Puerto Rico. And that's part of it.
So it's not contiguous because there's a body of water. Like it's not bordering us.
I mean, not only that, but like it's not part of the U.S. because it's a territory, and also like barely less than 50% of the population voted to like what the vote for the referendum to become a state was something like 51%. Like that's tight. That's really, really tight.
It is.
But at the same time, like, I mean, I completely agree with Doug that we should absolutely get behind them. I mean, they're devastated to an extent that I don't think Houston necessarily. Yeah, I mean, Trump really. Yeah, Trump should have been on a plane there a week ago. But at the same time, I mean, I don't know about y'all, but like, so I live in Houston. And it's just like the fatigue that you get from the devastation is exhausting, and I think that might have a little bit to do with it. Like, I'm not discounting the fact that you're probably right, the fact that Puerto Rico is not a state with like 30, 50 something electoral votes probably has a lot to do with it. You know, but at the same time, it's like we've had two major states hit with like Category 4 hurricanes in the past 2 months.
And that's what I was gonna jump in and say that I fully support what you're saying. Maybe we're just stretched thin right now with the amount of devastation we've had. Because beyond even the hurricanes, haven't we had like some major wildfires and stuff going on?
Yeah, in the Northwest.
The whole West Coast is on fire. Literally, the whole West Coast is on fire.
We've also refused to lift the Jones Act, though. Like we will not allow people to ship things to Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
Or countries to bring shipments of aid to Puerto Rico.
That's true. That's true.
I think the portion of the James Act, the portion of the Jones Act that James is referring to. Sorry about that. Working the clip.
Oh man, the James Act.
Borders. Go ahead and do things.
You have to have an American, like, you know, American captain, American crew, essentially. Like, the lower down people don't have to be American. But yeah, I mean,
can we not just suspend that shit? I mean, is it really necessary? Is it really necessary right now?
No, but I think the bigger problem is they don't have electricity and haven't had it for a week. Like, that's a long fucking time.
Sorry, no, I get that. I get that. But you know what? Aid is good. And one of those aids is fuel, which goes into generators, which allows them to have electricity. But no, the issue is that Donald Trump will not suspend that shit. He will not let a foreign country bring them fuel.
I like to think that Donald Trump knows what the fuck the Jones Act is.
So guys, we
talked about it.
To not lift it.
Not to lift it. This was talked about.
Well, I mean, Donald Trump is all about the status quo. I don't know why you're surprised.
I think Doug hit the nail on the head.
And you are moving them to other stadiums across the country right now. Like, what?
You can do both. No one's disagreeing.
I'm confused as hell.
By the way, I'd like to circle us back to the NFL discussion y'all were
apparently
by saying that I am eating a fine Peyton Manning meal here of chicken parm. Go ahead and continue.
Oh my goodness.
Tennessee.
That was the circle back?
That was the circle back.
So good. Now let's get back to the NFL.
Here's a thought I had. The whole conversation about the trolls and people just believing things. I mean, people believe what they, if it's something that fits your narrative and it supports the things that you want to believe are the reasons for any behavior, with it kneeling, for the anthem or what have you. Like, if it's the worst, if you can assign bad motives to the people doing it, that's much easier than acknowledging, problems with race and having to have the conversation, especially if you don't agree that there are problems with race. And what William was saying earlier that I absolutely agree with, and I wanted to jump in, but I wanted to let him finish, that skepticism is necessary, because these explanations, most of them fail the smell test. If you really think about, how do people act? What motivates people in these different situations? And is it that Kaepernick hates America and he hates the military? Does that sound realistic to anybody? It really doesn't to me. It doesn't sound like rational motivation for anybody.
Well, let me play devil's advocate. I'll jump in here. Certainly, it looks like he hates police. He wears pig cop socks and shit while he's on the field.
Yeah, you can make the argument that he hates police.
Yeah, disrespects police. I mean, and aren't a lot of police former military? I mean, don't they kind of like play that same brotherhood game? Like,
there is definitely,
but that's a stretch.
Oh, is it really?
I think so.
I think there is a pipeline between military and Border Patrol, FBI, police department.
Clarence, say it again.
Sometimes MPs go on to become police officers, although that sometimes that can clash because the military actually trains MPs how they should do. There was actually an Ohio officer who was a former MP who was fired. He didn't shoot the guy, and he handled the situation how he was taught in the military and de-escalated the situation. And they say that by not shooting the guy, he put his fellow officers in danger.
Oh yeah.
So they fired him.
Oh my gosh.
About par for the course. So the question then becomes: is it okay to disrespect police departments? Is it okay to disrespect police like that? I mean, is this really some racial hatred thing, or is it something?
This is the thing with that. It's that the problem between people.
You put out again.
He caught it. He caught it.
He's waiting. Look at.
People kind of. It's going to happen again pretty soon. People kind of forget that before Obama, this has been going on a long time before Ferguson, Missouri.
Very much so.
A long time before anything. The problem between the African American community and the police have been going on for decades. Some people trace it all the way back to slavery. Really upset when Kaepernick put out the picture with the slave patrol badge and the police badge. But to an extent, it's true. They've done research that showed that the KKK infiltrated the police departments around the nation. So there's some.
Yeah, the FBI has put out research data.
And the thing is, this has been a long-standing problem. The reason that a lot of this stuff has come to the forefront is because America just was not ready for a black president like they thought it would.
I feel you. I think America was ready for it. I think a small portion, well, not even a small portion, but like a minority portion of America was not ready for it.
A large swath of America was just not ready for that. There was a big drastic change to them, and they weren't ready for it like the country thought that we were ready for it. The country was mentally ready for that, and that's why a lot of it got blown up, because those problems between the police department and the African American community go back way back. That is nothing new. I kept trying to tell people that during the whole thing. It is nothing new.
It's just we all carry cameras now. We all have cameras in our phone.
But Demario, you weren't on earlier when I told people, when I was saying, my white friends used to look like I was crazy when I used to bring that stuff up, because they didn't see it. But now you can see it.
Yeah, no, every day. I mean, Philando Castile. Look at Philando Castile, like right there, exactly. You found some weed on him, so that justifies shooting.
But people will still say, "Oh, well, he should have." They still find a way to excuse it.
Oh, they always find a way to.
I know. We've had those conversations, yeah.
Because people are so 100% no matter what behind the police department, and there's that disconnect. Well, not you, Savannah, but
I grew up in a very highly police community, and I can tell you that I fucking hated cops. Like, until recently, I would have spat on a cop before I shook his hand. I'm not kidding.
But
like, I mean, I was pulled over for driving a sporty-ish car with paper plates and harassed in the middle of the King Ranch. Like, harassed. Like, they made me get out and walk around the car and answer a bunch of questions they have no fucking right to ask. And I'm, again, like a white girl. Like, what the fuck? And it was literally because they profiled me and they saw me.
I'm so sorry, white girl, that you were subjected to being profiled.
I'm just saying, I had this experience. Can you imagine like, what they actually consider to be a fucking threat? Like me, not a threat, right? But still,
Yeah, no, totally
because my car looks kind of sporty and has paper plates. And they want to know when I bought it, what I paid for it, and how I paid for it, because they want to know if I'm running drugs.
Or prostituting.
I caught drug running. I caught drug running and had to threaten to kill an officer. Or I threatened to kill him if he killed a dog, but that was a whole other thing.
I mean, your brother's been pulled over for shit like, you know, my favorite thing that he got in high school was, showing off acceleration or something like that, where he like kind of, you know, from they pulled him over and used that as an excuse to pull a canine unit on him to see if he was running drugs. And it's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, and since I left the Valley, have I ever been pulled over in a situation like that? No. Like, so I'm just saying, like, the fact that certain communities are policed a lot more than others is true. Like, having lived in one and having seen that shit on a regular basis, like, it's just true. It just so happened that I didn't have drugs on me or whatever. I don't even know. I don't even know.
It just so happened this time I was not in possession of cocaine.
Yeah, it just so happened that this time that I was like going the fucking speed limit through the King Ranch because I was like, sporty car with paper plates. I shouldn't speed. You know, they pull me over and harass me, and they like miraculously don't find cocaine because it's not my jam.
The best thing I ever did was probably sell my Cadillac. I had a Cadillac with 22-inch rims on it, and getting rid of that Cadillac saved me tons of headaches. But the problem I have with it is I had to get rid of my Cadillac. You know, like I can't drive a Cadillac on rims because they're pulling me over every day, searching me. I had a cop pull me over one time because I had a Saint Bernard in my back seat. Okay, like he pulls up and I'm like, you know, can I help you? And he's like, that's a really interesting dog you have back there. And I'm like, yeah, it's a Saint Bernard, you know, it's Beethoven.
Do you think the dog is like running cotton as a cocaine star? What the fuck?
Yeah. So I don't know.
Not so large, DeMario.
Right. Like, so once I got rid of my Cadillac, I don't see the blue lights ever anymore.
That's a damn shame too, man. I love my Cadillac.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's true. Like, cops in certain areas are predisposed. Sorry, Clarence, I can't hear you. You're breaking up.
I said when I first got my Infiniti, I got pulled over a lot too.
Yeah. Was it like a T35 or something?
My personal training sign on the back of it. Oh yeah. Is that your car? I'm freaking driving it.
No, I fucking stole it from my neighbor. Like, come on.
Do you live like I'm back like literally one time I'm parking into my parking lot at my apartment complex, and all of a sudden I have lights in my face. Stop the car, and all this other stuff. It's like, do you live here? I'm pulling into the goddamn parking spot, apartment D. Did you see it on the ground?
Like it's not in your place here.
Like I'm trying to park in the parking lot. Do you see me trying to park? I can't park because when you weren't all the way in. Well, I wasn't all the way in because you put the bad lights in my face. Well, I mean, really, it's like.
That's ridiculous.
No, but that's funny. Yeah, but you know, stories like this, that's funny to me. Because a lot of this pushback right now in this NFL thing, we want to go back to it, is you aren't oppressed. No one's oppressed in America. And you know what? I can only tell one story, one time when I was profiled that I was talking about before, that was bullshit. It was just the fact that I was in law school. It was my last year of law school. I had an 08 Impala SS blacked out. It was really nice. And I was wearing a suit, and it was clean as shit. At Spring Hill Police Department in Tennessee did not like that. They saw me pull into a Target in the back of the parking lot because I didn't want anybody to scratch my damn car. Go buy some alcohol, come back, bring my alcohol back to the car, and sure enough, I'm stopped right there. We had this huge confrontation. My dog's in my back seat. He was about 120 pounds, and he wasn't fucking having it. He doesn't like police.
Is that your second card?
That was my German Shepherd government who died in July, but he was not having that shit. He was not about it. And so like this cop handcuffs me so he can search my car, which is clean, beautiful car, clean. So he goes and gets a crowbar out of the back of his. He's like, well, I'm going to start tearing open your seats and stuff because you're a drug dealer. And I'm like, what in the fuck are you talking about? And then my dog goes nuts on him. He pulls his gun now and is aiming at my dog. And I'm like, okay, look, I'll tell you what. I'll go get the dog. Yeah, I'll stay in the handcuffs. You want to move him to the front? That's fine. I'll put a leash on him and I'll hold the damn thing. Because if you shoot my dog, I'm coming at you even if I'm in the handcuffs. And you're going to shoot me. Then my parents are going to sue you for wrongful death. You're not going to have a job anymore. And it's going to be wonderful for my parents because they're going to be rich as fuck. I mean, I'll be dead. That's unfortunate. But your ass is
point games. Are we getting to the point soon?
Yeah, the point is I wanted to tell that story. Fuck you, Siobhan.
He must have joined in on the oppression.
I think that's the interesting thing.
That's the worst thing that's ever happened to me. And my God, what a terrible story, right? Like the white girl that got pulled over.
No, I mean, like, it's true. But all I was trying to say by those stories is, like, I lived in a highly policed Hispanic community, and I got pulled over all the fucking time. My brother got pulled over. Bill can tell you, he was probably in the car with them half the time. We just got pulled over all the time.
In the car too.
But at the same time, as soon as they pulled you over, they were like, "Oh, well, you're not who we're looking for," and then they just do you away. You know, so like that's not made up. It's true. It's fucking
so, I'd like to share a couple of things. One, and
please show out my brother things he might have done that's illegal with the statute of limitations of running.
Over.
God, white kids do drugs. We know. Jesus Christ. Next.
And two, with regards to the NFL shindig, I feel like we need to bring up some words from Martin Luther King from his letter in the Birmingham jail. But first, I would just like to bring up one time my brother and I were driving up to Austin, and just so you guys know, when you go from Brownsville up north, you have to pass through a checkpoint. And at this particular time, one of my buddies who is Mexican, Abraham Matus, like real Mexican, he's riding with us. And we go up there and we get to the checkpoint and the police officer says, "Are you U.S. citizens?" "Yes, sir." "All right, guys, have a good one. Take care." And we drive off. And I don't think anything of it. And Abe in the backseat is like, "Are you fucking serious? That's how it is?" Because every other time he tries to go north, he gets pulled out and they search his car and he always has to show his driver's license, and that's never good enough. And he's gotten used to bringing his birth certificate too because, hey, he doesn't look American. He's, you know, ooh. What?
Freedom papers.
Papers.
Yeah. Like seriously. And like kind of hit me like, wow, I really have no idea. And so bringing this back to the NFL, a lot of people complain about Kaepernick and the way he's protesting because, you know, oh, he's being disrespectful to the troops. And people were protesting when Kobe Bryant and the Lakers wore "I Can't Breathe" shirt because, oh, you're protesting, you know, don't protest like that. When you have the people, the cast of Hamilton saying, like, giving words to Mike Pence saying that we hope you represent all of us, not just some of us. No, don't protest like that. And so I'm just going to read this excerpt from Martin Luther King Jr. Letter from a Birmingham jail. "I must confess that over the past few years, I have been greatly disappointed with the white moderate. I have almost reached the regrettable conclusion that the Negro's great stumbling block in his stride towards freedom is not the white citizen's counselor or the Ku Klux Klaner, but the white moderate who is more devoted to order than to justice. who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice, who constantly says, I agree with you in the goal you seek, but I cannot agree with your methods of direct action, who paternalistically believes he can set the timetable for another man's freedom, who lives by the mythical concept of time, and who constantly advises the Negro to wait for a more convenient season. Like,
wow, that one hit me right at home. Oh, thank you, bro. That one really. Because I mean, I have specifically said those words as a white moderate. I have said those words. I've said, like, I don't agree with your method of protest. I don't like it. But that doesn't mean I don't believe in your message. I believe in your message. I won't join you in your protest. But damn it, man.
And see, here's the thing.
About that, actually, about his also the same letter talking about the lack of support from the white church. With him being a reverend also, and he thought he would get more support from the white church at that time.
And what's insane is while he was in jail, one of the reverends in the white evangelical community had a call for unity to get all the other white congregations to unite against this upending and movement that is bringing disorder to the nation. Like, it's not about bringing disorder to the nation. It's about bringing rights and justice and equality to some people who've been treated like shit their whole lives.
And also kind of recognizing like our in the system that we benefit from. I mean, there's a huge part of that. It's like recognizing your role in what's happening.
Yeah.
What is that?
Anyway, guys, I have a 5 o'clock client in the morning.
Oh my God.
People got to work out. Lawyers have to work out before they go law.
Oh, dude, I just go after. Well, okay, so after work.
You worked at that wine glass.
Yeah.
I actually trained 3 lawyers, so I had to go get to bed so I can get up in the morning and train you guys.
Are we talking about fitness?
Yeah, he's
a trainer.
I'm about to mute this shit.
I just look about fitness taco in my fucking mouth.
It was great having you, man.
Man, we really appreciate it.
Let me know by next week. Y'all get together. I'll see y'all online on Facebook.
Awesome, man.
All right.
All right. I'll have his mic fixed too.
Yes, indeed.
I'll have his mic fixed.
Oh,
all right.
Man, that's the best you've been.
It's the best I did, but I'm about to get off. Great.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Bye, Clarence.
Good night, Clarence.
See ya.
Nice to meet you. See ya.
And now down to one black man.
Let's go kick black man.
Why do you make it about race? Why you gotta make it about race?
Right?
Cool. I think it's worth sharing those statistics you shared with me earlier about how people felt about the civil rights movement, the particular protests.
Oh yeah. Oh my God, dude. Like,
Bill had these fantastic polls from the civil rights era of
Washington Post
percentage of Americans who agreed or thought that shit was divisive or whatever. It was very telling.
Can I guess that they're probably pretty fucking similar to the same thing we see today?
Ooh, James, you're fucking clairvoyant. I love it.
We know. It's almost so like it's almost predictable.
and like that, like reading this stuff and reading Martin Luther King's letter is really like you know, I was pretty. Like, you know, I saw Kaepernick sitting down, I saw him kneel, and I was like, well, he has a point, and he's not being disrespectful. I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't have a problem with it. And then everyone's, you know, all up in arms and, you know, shitting their pants over the dumbest thing. And then, you know, people post these statistics in MLK's letter, and I just think, holy crap, we're living it again.
That's pretty great.
Yeah, all those people that are saying, like institutional racism doesn't exist. We've moved past that. Like, no, we haven't. Like, not at all.
No. Yeah,
like, let's see this. So, a survey conducted by the Gallup organization May 28th through June 2nd, 1961, and based on personal interviews with a national adult sample of 1,502, Data provided by the Roper Center for Public Opinion Research. Question. Do you approve? And now this is regarding the Freedom Riders, who were a group of black protesters who organized sit-ins to, make the point that, hey, we're being mistreated. Question. Do you approve or disapprove of what the Freedom Riders are doing? Approve, 22%. Disapprove, 61%. No opinion, 18%. Question. Do you think sit-ins at lunch counters, freedom buses, and other demonstrations by Negroes will hurt or help the Negroes' chances of being integrated in the South? Help, 28%. Hurt, 57%. No opinion, 16%. Back then when they were doing protests, which we look back on and say that was the right way to do it. That, peaceful protesting works. Martin Luther King, blah, 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 blah. Like that, we look back on that with rose-colored glasses, but white people back in the day, 1 in 5 approved of it or thought it was good. And 3 in 5 didn't like it, and 1 in 5 didn't care. So,
wow. I mean, it was divisive and not effective, which is, very closely mirrors my Facebook feed.
Yeah,
that's the exact same thing I was talking about earlier. They're the same people that you see in those old video clips, and it's the same people.
Yeah,
they're just they're present day. They're the present day version of the same people.
Yeah, these are the children of those people and grandchildren.
An 80-year-old man on Facebook the other day about this specifically, and my observation was how tiring it must be to always be on the wrong side of history.
Yeah.
God.
Hey, here's the thing too:
the civil rights movement and get shit on, and and realize it, but did not see that this was a problem, and go 50, 60 years into the future, and here we fucking are again, and you're just doing the same damn thing.
Well, the hard pill it is for people to swallow is that racism, it's always going to be. It's here to stay. There's nothing we can do about it.
Yes.
Because it's now at this point, racism is a business. It's not even an idea anymore. It's a business.
It wasn't a business. It's a natural human inclination. I mean, if you want to study different types of philosophy and whatnot, and postmodern shit, you have Derrida, who will tell you human understanding is based on negation from the very beginning. What is different from I is what I know. That's how I identify myself. Is you're not me, so I know I'm me.
Right.
Racism one of those.
It's tribalism. Sure.
You're different.
Can I share a story just to kind of piggyback on what DeMario was talking about, racism being kind of a business? If you'll just bear with me for a minute. My family on my dad's side is Scots-Irish, and so it is the lily white snow. On my mother's side, we're Hispanic Native American. And for the longest time back in Louisiana, if you were of Hispanic descent, it was very you were treated pretty poorly as a Hispanic person. So my family had to lie about their nationality, and they claimed that they were of French descent because it was far more respectable to be of French descent than it was to be Hispanic. The interesting thing is, when I was growing up, I grew up in Houston, Texas. When I was growing up, I grew up in kind of a little microcosm, its own little melting pot, if you will. I mean, I had friends that were Native American, that were Black, that were Indian, like subcontinent Indian, India, Asian, the whole, I mean, when I talk about a melting pot, Houston, and Siobhan, you can attest to this, Houston is pretty much its own little melting pot as well. So it never occurred to me that the friends that I had growing up were out of the ordinary. And one of my very best friends when I was in middle school was a Black girl. Her name was Jerry. And she was my ride or die at the time when I was in the 6th, 7th, 8th grade. I found it very interesting that my Hispanic grandmother was very much opposed to the fact that my best friend was Black. And the thing that I find interesting is that even amongst minorities, there is still racism against each other. And that to me blows my mind. That blows my mind. And as an adult, I've come to find out one of my husband's very best friends here in Tennessee is a black woman that he actually dated before he and I started dating. And she has said that even among the black community, that there is even racism amongst black people, depending on just how darkly pigmented the coloring of one's skin is. And see, that to me is disheartening. So if we as white people cannot, or Hispanic people, or as Asian people cannot get past each other, when within its own race there is still that fractured nature against each other, how are we ever going to heal it between black and white?
Right. I mean, honestly, like so I grew up on the border, right, where like particularly in Mexico, you see the same kind of thing happen where they differentiate based on how white you look.
Yep.
So the people who are, more indigenous looking, like morena, whatever, like darker, are considered lower class.
Right.
In a lot of cases versus the ones who look more European. I think a lot of that stems from the fact that looking white or appearing white is considered to be better. And so I think that to some extent, kind of remedying.
And it's even that way, Siobhan, in Vietnam. The more pale you are, the better.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I think that's absolutely true. But I think that kind of changing the rules where it says like just looking white or appearing to be whiter doesn't mean the world is necessarily better for you. We'll get rid of all of those problems. Like they stem from the root problem of like, European white people kind of have it better than others.
Well, my point is that if I think it's very, and it's admirable that we want to try to have this discussion about race in the situation that we're in now in America. But my point was greater to that even within minority communities, there is still, even amongst that minority community, there is still no real true equality in the eyes of some. Like I think, Demario, you were agreeing with me that, the darker your skin, you're still, they'll look down upon you. And I think, well, how are we going to fix it?
It's actually reversed. It stems from the brown bag rule. If you were lighter than a brown paper bag, you get to work in the house instead of the field. Yeah. So what you end up having is you end up having a lot of darker skinned folks that like to kind of, metaphorically speaking, throw tomatoes at lighter skin. You know what I mean? So that's the way that works. But that's, I hate to say it like this, but that was something that was created by, the slave culture and the whites that's how they segregated the two, and it just rolled in. But that is slowly going away. I give it, I don't know, 10 years it'll be completely gone away, because we have a whole culture of mulatto children that are here now that, you go into like a high school or middle school, and you've got like this peanut butter shade that goes almost all the way through, so
mocha latte.
Yeah, so it's like I don't think there'll be much of that left soon. Okay, like that is something that is dying, but there'll always be some sort of segregation among anything,
That's true, and I just bring it up because it's more to me. It seems like it's a deeper issue than just a black versus white issue. It goes deeper and it stretches a little bit further than just a Caucasian African American kind of conflict.
Right. And from what I hear, I have a buddy, and he tells me about like with Hispanic and Latin descent that there's a lot of prejudice between them. And we were in a call center, so it was like, when they would hear certain dialects come from him and they were used to certain dialects, they automatically have some sort of animosity over the phone with them, not even knowing who or what he was, just by the simple dialect that they both spoke.
Like regional differences in dialect. Like, you're from El Salvador, I'm from Mexico.
Exactly. So, it's just something, we're going to have to deal with.
And it's a sad shame. It drives me insane because the thing that really kind of frustrated me was knowing that my grandmother had to lie about her own skin color and say, oh no, we're just French. We're not Hispanic. I'm thinking, how dare you, after you had to go through an upbringing, a childhood where you had to deny your own ethnicity, how dare you sit there and criticize one of your grandchildren for having friends of another shade of brown?
Yeah.
It's pretty hypocritical. Yeah.
Well, look, and I'll tell you this from an Irish perspective too, is you're going to see a lot of this in my distant family and whatnot. There's a shit ton of racism against black people, and especially in the older folks who at the time dealt with the same kind of animosity. We were the black white Americans.
The black Irish.
Yeah, we were the shitty. Well, no, just in general. No, we were just Irish were the poor, looked down upon white people that were dirty and disgusting, and no one wanted to deal with them either. And
you know what I'm talking about.
But the thing is, they almost took a pride in being above black folk in that sense, because they're like, well, at least we're not black.
I mean, we might die of black love.
You know, like, it's good enough. It's something.
Yeah.
And we would turn that animosity right back to the black population and be like, oh, well, fuck them.
So there's this really interesting quote by LBJ, and I'm just checking on Snopes to make sure he said it, and he did. He says,
always useful. Thank you for being skeptical. Go ahead.
If you can convince the lowest white man that he's better than the best colored man, he won't notice you're picking his pocket. Hell, give him somebody to look down on, and he'll probably empty his pockets for you. So I think that's a lot of the mentality.
Nail on the head.
That one's actually probably fairly accurate. I don't know if he said that exactly, but I imagine if you're Snopesing it right now, it's pretty good. That sounds like something LBJ would say.
No, you're right. Like my grandfather, like his whole family, his dad and a couple of his brothers, if not the majority of them, were coal miners, and so he was the first one to go to college and all that. But like, he definitely was one of the most racist people in my family, like by a lot. And I think that a lot of it was just kind of this like feeling of being threatened, you know, like, yeah, I mean, it was
we see a leg up where you're like, well, society recognizes me above this person, so we need to fucking bag on that guy. You know?
Yeah, exactly, because our position is threatened, and we feel like if we let them have the opportunities that we have, that we will be lesser off.
Yeah, take the heat off me. Let me put it on the guy below me.
I think one of the biggest disappointments, to reel it back over to the Kaepernick thing, is the amount of people that are veterans that are more upset with Kaepernick and the protests rather than the whole the Nazi movement that's going on. You know, like, you guys actually fought against Nazis.
Right?
Like, you didn't go to World War with Black Lives Matters or with the Titans. You know what I mean? Like, you guys went towards the Nazis, and y'all are pretty damn quiet about the Nazi movement.
Wait, you did go to war with Black Lives Matter, but they were on your side.
Right.
Yeah, and then they came back to, you know, these, like, part of the World War II propaganda overseas was, look at how shittily you treat the black people in your own country, and you pretend like you're better than us. Like, that was a huge propaganda movement for Nazi Germany and the other Axis powers. And that says a lot about us as a country. So, no, you're 100% correct. Like,
we're racist.
Hey, I was just notified that Hugh Hefner died. Anybody else hear that?
What?
Yeah.
God, the journalistic community, I just don't know how they'll recover.
Goddamn time, though. I mean, photos at
95, right?
Oh my God.
There's only one place to go, Playboy.com. I'm sure they've got a statement.
Anyway.
Sorry, I just derailed that shit with ass and titties. My bad.
Like, there are a lot of people who defend what happened in Charlottesville as, you know, people protesting as if their First Amendment right. But what they don't really seem to take into consideration is the fact that, like, just because you agree that they have a right to protest doesn't mean that you agree with their underlying message. And the problem with the Kaepernick thing is that people are using the procedural mechanism to disagree with the system.
Yep, that is a true statement. Fox News is publishing Hugh Hefner is dead.
Shane,
91.
It's probably that, man.
The fuck?
You totally just torpedoed what she was saying. That was relevant to the conversation. Good job, James.
Fire for the course.
CNBC is reporting it too.
Oh, he's gone.
Oh, thank you, Melissa. Oh, no, I needed an alley-oop for that slam.
Well, I mean,
Oh
we
my
heard it
God.
here first on Fermenting Opinions. Kicked the bucket.
The king is dead. Long live the king. The king is dead. Porn. I guess not really. Not really.
No. What was it? Larry Flint? No, is it Larry Flint that was
Larry Flint. Oh,
yeah, Larry Flint. Yeah. That was Hustler, right?
That porn was 10,000 times better.
Hustler porn kicked Playboy's porn's ass. Okay.
Please, consider telling us more about your favorite porn. Thank you.
There was a preference over Playboy or Hustler, which is an age-old porn.
Yeah. Playboy, I give them pinup, but they didn't have shit.
They weren't on that nasty shit.
Nah, I didn't. I was. So. Sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
But I'll tell you what, Playboy had some great articles, and that's not even a joke. For real, I actually do love Playboy like news articles.
She's gone. Somebody dropped out.
Oh yeah, we lost Siobhan.
I think she left. I don't think we lost.
Let me check and see what happened.
Yeah,
it's okay on my end anyway. I mean, we've had a fun time with this, but I gotta call it. I'm going to wake up at the ass crack of dawn and try to go get a new phone because I broke mine.
She bailed on the conversation.
I've got the new Note 8, yo.
I'm not. I don't need another like Al Qaeda improvised ISIS bomb that goes on an airplane. But anyway.
Oh my gosh.
This will
go get that Apple X.
The only reason James is shitting on it is because he doesn't have one. If he had one, he would defend it to his last breath.
No, man, I really just can't stand the Android updates all the goddamn time.
They're no worse than Apple updates.
Thank you. I think we've talked all the talks. I think we've hit all the points here tonight.
She wrote Siobhan off, and I don't know how the hell we did that. But.
I think she left.
I think she was making a good point about the Kaepernick thing, and then we're like, oh, porn, and she wasn't having it. So, Siobhan, sorry about that.
It had to be announced.
Yeah. But I think.
Paco.
Yeah, man, it's all your fault. It's all your.
Sorry. Thank you, Demario, for bringing us breaking news.
I thought that was. In my opinion, that's more important than the Kaepernick shit. Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Well,
yeah.
I have 6 o'clock so I can go, take care of people and get flu shots. Which, by the way, shameless plug. The CDC is reporting cases of the flu already. Get your flu shots. It's going to be a very bad year.
Gotcha. Appreciated. And guys, that's going to be it for us. This has been Fermenting Opinions. Thank you all for coming out. My co-host James.
Yeah, I'm James. Yeah, he's giving us the goodbye.
Like, share, and follow Fermenting Opinions. And shout out to Ross Janes and Janes.com. And that is going to be it for us. Please feel free to continue to hang out afterwards. But we are out.
Good night, y'all.